Welcome into the San Francisco 49ers Report. I'm Chase Sr., and coming up, I thought what Colin Cowherd had to say on his radio show, The Herd on FS1 and Fox Sports Radio about Brock Purdy was very, very interesting on this Monday, the aftermath of the Niners losing ugly again at the hands of the Miami Dolphins. And he had some strong remarks about Purdy and about the contract extension that he might or might not get from San Francisco, which brings us to this. This is today's poll question, and it's the pinned comment on today's show. So scroll on down and get your votes in. Brock Purdy at $50 million per year. Should the 49ers go over with their contract offer, or you for under that number? Sound off with what you think down below. Cowherd began by saying this, that two things are official with the 49ers in 2024. Number one, they are officially out of playoff contention. We knew that going into that game against Miami because right before kickoff got underway, it was announced that San Francisco was out officially of the playoff race in the NFC. And then Cowherd said, number two, this is why we're doing this show. The 49ers would be, quote, insane to pay Brock Purdy early. My read on the situation right now, as this season has gone on, I think that Purdy has played at a pretty average level. There have been a lot of reasons for that. His play, that deserves blame. All of the chaos and the instability around him, those have been factors as well. But I've voiced my concerns about Purdy getting paid $50 million or more per year, and I've wondered, should Purdy play out the expiring year of his contract? If the Niners give him $30 million, $40 million, that's the Baker Mayfield or Daniel Jones contract, and Purdy says no, okay, then you play on the expiring year of your deal. We're going to take that offer off the table if you don't want to take it, and if you think that you're worth $50 to $60 million per season, go out there and prove it. I've also thrown out that Baker Mayfield contract, which is starting to get some traction when people have these dialogues and conversations about Purdy. Baker, going into this year, got paid 3 years, $100 million. I think $50 million in guaranteed money. Those are the important figures there, guaranteed cash. And it comes out to about $33 million per season. I want to ask you this. Who is playing better football right now, and who has played better this year? Baker Mayfield or Brock Purdy? It is by far Baker Mayfield. Chase, he hasn't had the injuries that Brock Purdy has had. Hold on. The defense has been banged up, and a lot of key contributors on that side of the ball have been in and out of the lineup. Chris Godwin's out for the year. He hasn't played in a long time, a couple of months at this point, and Mike Evans missed several weeks because of a hamstring issue. Baker Mayfield has just as much mobility as Brock Purdy. He has a stronger arm. He's the better athlete, and he's on pace to throw for 40 touchdowns this season. So this year, Baker Mayfield has played at a better level than Brock Purdy. And since the midway point of last year, Baker's been a borderline top 10, top 12 or 13 quarterback. And after he led the Buccaneers to the playoffs last year, they won a playoff game, nearly beat Detroit in the second round. The Buccaneers gave him a 3-year, $100 million contract. More dynamic player than Purdy, playing better right now, and he's developed into a really good quarterback. And when you pay quarterbacks $50, $60 million per year, you have to be sure that that investment is going to be worth it. Because those quarterbacks who you give that price tag to should be able to elevate their teammates, not vice versa. It's not their teammates elevating the quarterback. And I know a lot of people will say, Chase, the market is this, Chase, the market is that. Trevor Lawrence, Tua, they got $50+ million. Why shouldn't Brock? Well, let me counter that by asking you this. Are Tua Tagovailoa and Trevor Lawrence worth that money? I'd say no. So why should San Francisco mortgage their future on an investment they're not sure about? And why should San Francisco fall into the Dolphins or Jaguars trap? What have the Jags and Dolphins done since the turn of the century as far as having high-level playoff success? Jags made it to an AFC title game back during the 2017 season. In the early 2000s with Mark Brunell and Fred Taylor, they had some really solid teams. The Dolphins haven't done a damn thing since Dan Marino. Those are poorly run organizations, and paying those quarterbacks, it's going to hinder their team building. And when you do invest in a quarterback to that manner, you can't build out the rest of your team. This is what the Cowboys have run into with Dak Prescott. They are top heavy. Yeah, they paid Dak. They paid CD Lamb. They've paid DeMarcus Lawrence over time. They're probably going to pay Micah Parsons. They've been able to invest in other players, but the depth is never there. And when it comes down to the playoffs, you can see that depth get exposed. And just because they're paying Dak $60 million, the last few years, even before he signed that deal, he was still making a lot of coin. They were overly reliant on Dak to throw the football because they wanted him to live up to that price tag. And when they've become overly Dak reliant, they're not as good of a football team. And on Sunday, Deebo Samuel was great. George Kittle was great. This Niners defense played pretty well. The Dolphins are a reeling football team. And the Niners scored 17 points. Brock Purdy threw another game-ending interception. Purdy is a really good quarterback. We have seen him be very productive. But for $50 to $60 million, I need you to be great regardless of the surroundings. And I'm not sure if Purdy is great if he doesn't have everything in sync around him. Now, coming up next, more on what Colin Cowherd had to say. He already said it'd be insane for the 49ers to give him $50 to $60 million. What else did he say? I want you to let me know your thoughts on this down in the comment section, and that's coming up here just around the corner. In the meantime, let's get to our sponsor, ZBiotics. The holiday season is here. You know it's a great stocking stuffer? ZBiotics. Get 15% off at zbiotics.com/chatsports. You can plug in that link, or you can scan the QR code on your screen right now. Have you ever skipped a workout because of drinks the night before? Me too, man. If you're committed to your healthy routine this year, you need ZBiotics pre-alcohol. We all have busy lives these days, and we can't afford to waste a day stuck on the couch because of a few drinks the night prior. ZBiotics pre-alcohol is the answer we've all been waiting for. Let's face it, after a night with drinks, I don't bounce back the next day like I used to. I have to make a choice. I can either have a great night or a great day. That is until I found ZBiotics pre-alcohol, the world's first genetically engineered probiotic, invented by PhD scientists who tackle rough mornings after drinking. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break that byproduct down. Just remember to drink this probiotic before drinking alcohol. Drink responsibly and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. I first tried this last year before a watch party. I was feeling great the next day. So from Thanksgiving feasts to Christmas dinners to Hanukkah celebrations to New Year's Eve celebrations, this holiday season is packed with events, but don't let the festivities leave you feeling less than merry. ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic can help you savor the night and seize the day. 15% off at zbiotics.com/chatsports. You can sign up for a subscription as well. It's all backed with the 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money. No questions asked. More from what Cowherd had to say on this Monday, December 3rd on Brock Purdy. He called him the classic if quarterback, and this was a classic Cowherd-ism, if you will. And Cowherd explained, if Brock Purdy has a good defense, if he has excellent protection, if the weather is good, then he can win a lot of games. He also countered that by saying, well, the NFL is not an if league. He brought up the example of how Jaden Daniels played against the Philadelphia Eagles in that number one defense on Sunday, where there was a lot that went wrong. The Commanders turned it over 5 times, and Jaden Daniels still had himself a hell of a game. Cowherd also added how Purdy's success is contingent on other players' availability and said that is worth about $35 million per year. I find it hard to argue that because we have seen this year with Christian McCaffrey out, Deebo Samuel, Trent Williams, George Kittle, Ricky Pearsall, all missing time against the Dolphins. You had Aaron Banks out, Nick Sakell in at left guard. You had Jalen Moore out for Trent Williams at left tackle. Spencer Burford was in. And Brock Purdy wasn't able to really carried the team to a victory. It was an ugly loss. Now, in 2023, we did see how Purdy can play with a good complementary cast. He was top 5 in MVP voting, and he was terrific. Number 1 in yards per attempt, number 1 in adjusted air yards per attempt, number 1 elsewhere in true passer rating, QBR, deep ball catchable rate, EPA. He was number 2 in red zone completion rate, number 3 in passing touchdowns, number 4 in pressured completion rate, and number 5 in passing yards. That was a hell of a season there from Purdy, but the Niners were the 4th healthiest team in the NFL. Their offensive line had continuity. The skill position players did play. Ayuk, more than 1,000 receiving yards. Debo, more than 1,000 all-purpose yards. George Kittle, more than 1,000 receiving yards. Christian McCaffrey, more than 2,000 all-purpose yards. But to Purdy's credit, this offensive line this year has done Purdy no favors at all. It is a bad offensive line unit. I think that's led to hesitancy. I think it's led to inconsistencies. Brock Purdy not trusting his pocket feel and the things that are happening around him. Purdy with the clean pocket against Miami was actually very good. He was 22 of 29, 269 yards, 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. But as we saw in that game-ending interception, that's when the pocket broke down. There were times when Purdy had to run for his life. That was when the pocket broke down. So 22 of 29 with the clean pocket, and he threw the ball 40 times. So he didn't have a clean pocket on 11 other attempts. The Niners just need to prioritize offensive line a little bit more. And all year, here is the EPA per dropback with a clean pocket and where all quarterbacks rank. EPA standing for expected points added. If you're a baseball person, that's pretty much like the football version of WAR almost. Number 1, Jared Goff, MVP candidate. Number 2, Lamar Jackson, MVP candidate. Number 3, Josh Allen, MVP candidate. Number 4, Jalen Hurts, MVP candidate. Number 5, Sam Darnold, MVP candidate. Look who's at number 6, if he gets a clean pocket. Brock Purdy, who is ahead of Matthew Stafford, Justin Herbert, Jaden Daniels, and Jordan Love. So there are all these nuanced numbers for Purdy. Some of the numbers back up him being elite. There are other troubling numbers like him not performing well in the second half of games, not performing well in the fourth quarter. The turnovers and the lack of good decision-making, they've also been issues this year. But there is one common theme. The best quarterbacks throughout the course of NFL history have folded with bad protection in front of them. And Purdy hasn't had good enough protection. Another one of the sets of data and trends that I want to point out. Here's how Purdy has fared in his first 20 starts and in his last 20 starts. First 20 to the left, he was 17-3. Historic start. 69% completion rate. 39 touchdowns, 9 picks. Passer rating of 116.5. There were very few quarterbacks in the history of the league who did that in their first 20. But in his last 20, team has gotten a little bit older. They've been banged up. A lot of those games coming this year. This excludes the 2022 NFC Championship game. And you have to wonder, has the league caught on to Purdy and Kyle Shanahan a little bit? He's 500, 10-10. Completion rate down to 64.4. Touchdown interception ratio, 26-15. And a passer rating of 93.6. If you want more discussions like this, you want more Niners content like this, you can give me a follow on X and Instagram because I put out a lot of this type of stuff on my social media pages. Hope you all have a great, fantastic, and safe holiday season. The coverage will continue right here on this show, so be on the lookout here on the channel.